Hello, it's Cam for the Brother Slim, and we're back for another Trench Crusade faction focus of the Trench Pilgrims. We're also going to do the Future of Update 2 in this one too, because it's a fun and exciting read as well. So diving into it, let's get to it. We have, once again, I freaking love these crests. I think I've said it every video, but they're so cool, very thematic, and although they're very different than Mike's drawings of the world and creatures and beings in it, my goodness, do they fit so well. Okay. There we go. Many devout see it as their sacred duty to make a pilgrimage to no man's land and throw themselves at the forces of hell with righteous wrath. These zealots band together into vast pilgrim processions, fighting an endless crusade against the forces of hell. Pilgrims are armed with makeshift weapons ranging from muskets to punt guns and wear the famed iron capirotes, which shield their minds from the horrors of hell. So those are the tall pointed helmets, which are so cool. Great functional? No, but cool. Religious factor? Amen. They make up for their lack of sophisticated armaments with sheer numbers, faith, and religious zeal. The sermons of their war prophets galvanize the pilgrims so that each is willing to give their life for the cause. Mighty communicants bring their superhuman strength to bear as they crush the enemies of the cross, all whilst the castigators urge the faithful on with the sting of their whips. The Trench Pilgrims are often joined by stigmatic nuns, holy warrior women whose blessed wounds increase their fury in combat. The processions flock around anchorite shrines, walking altars of war that can take on even the mightiest of demons in close-quarter combat. With a wheel and a mace, love it. In front of the Trench Pilgrims are driven the ecclesiastic prisoners, either captured enemies of the true faith or volunteer sinners. Each is strapped with a high explosive which will detonate once they reach enemy lines. Oof. Trench Pilgrims combine large numbers with hard-hitting melee with surprising durability due to their specialist units. The Pilgrim brothers and sisters carry any kind of weapon they can get their hands on, from humble bolt-action rifle to the powerful, if cumbersome, punt guns. The stigmatic nuns can convert the wounds they suffer into blessings that help them in combat, while the monstrous communicant can pulverize even the toughest enemies to dust. The communicant is swole. To put it lightly. The focal point of many pilgrim processions is the shrine anchorite, a walking 15-foot-tall war altar that wields a deadly Catherine wheel and bonebreaker mace. And their leaders, the war prophets, can spur their troops into great feats of speed, while castigators will get any stragglers back to their feet with their merciless whips. Good times all around. Okay, so the models on the warband. First, I like how that breaks it down that way too. So this is the war prophet, which is currently the only leader for the faction, so everyone needs one of these. Pretty sweet sculpt. It kind of gives me like a slightly more grim, I can't remember the Warhammer faction, but the Sigmar faction that's like Cities of Sigmar, that's it. Kind of gives me that kind of vibe. And yeah, all the spells on the back and a big cross, very cool. The scroll and the war pick thing, is that a gun thing on the front of the pick too? It might be, it's crazy. Charismatic leaders and powerful fighters, they're driven by visions of Armageddon. Their preaching and prophecy drive pilgrimages from one battlefield to the next, as they seek to thwart the forces of the Archfiend or martyr themselves in the attempt. Indeed. And here we got our swole, chonky lad, the communicant. This dude's like double the size, maybe even close to triple the size of a normal person, by the way, too. Devotees who consume the flesh and blood of a Metachrist and were blessed by the rite of communion. They are strengthened by the divine essence. So I don't know what a Metachrist is in the lore, but they've consumed the flesh and blood. Obviously, it's Christianity kind of stuff, but yeah, I don't know what a Metachrist is in the universe. Acting as line breakers and bodyguards, they walk heedlessly through enemy fire, wounds closing miraculously as they maul their enemies with enormous weapons that a normal man can barely lift. Yeah, a mace, bells, and spikes. Yeah, such a gribbly cool miniature. Here's one of the stigmatic nuns. Holy sisters who seek to manifest the stigmata of the third Metachrist they venerate. They cross no man's land, heedless of any danger, closing with the foe as they pray to sustain wounds in which in turn will transform them into the very vengeance of the Lord. So we got the armored one, and then there's one later down that's got a bare chest as well. Cool sculpt though. Heavily armored, pistol, and sword in hand. Very cool indeed. And here's those tall, fun helmets that was mentioned in the original blurb. Wonder if that might be a punt gun. Yeah, these guys are so cool. Holy warriors of the trenches, they consider it their religious duty to make a pilgrimage to the sacred front lines to fight demons and heretics alike. Armored in faith and iron capirotes, however the pronunciation is, their bodies and souls are insulated from the horrors of war. So if I remember correctly, these guys have a rule where when they die in a game, after the fight's over, you can bring them back to life, and they basically go Super Saiyan, which is just a great mechanic. Okay, and then it's got, oh, fantastic. So it does have an image of the various multi-parts there, so you can see the different guns. I think that is a gun. Pistols, swords, the running pose, different hats and helmets too. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Additional models. So these you can either get separately or as part of the Trench Pilgrim bundle. Castigator. This guy's really cool too. Really like the helmet with the gas mask and the shield as well. And all of the church stuff and little packets on it too. Tasked with instilling the fear of God in the pilgrims under their charge, this orthodoxy officer keeps soldiers on the path of righteousness and punishes those who transgress. They are protected by their unwavering faith, unwavering faith though too, and decorate their person with signs and icons of the saints they revere. Very cool. Ecclesiastic prisoners. Driven in front of pilgrim warbands, these captured or volunteer singers are strapped with high explosives. They dash across the killing grounds, hoping to somehow survive the blast and escape, or take as many heretics with them as they can, depending on their convictions. So unlike the wretches of the heretics, they're actually to go, which is nice. Then we have the big bad Shrine Anchorite, a colossal suit of machine armor fueled by diesel and faith. What a combo. The Shrine Anchorite stands as a grim symbol of humanity's despair. Within its spiked, blood-stained interior, the pilot monk endures a terrible form of penance, his anguished prayers and chants echoing across the battlefield as he metes out death to even the mightiest foes. Super cool. Definitely kind of Warhammer Dreadnought vibes, but it's most certainly its own distinct thing. And having like the church steeple head helmet thing, it's just phenomenal. So that's the Catherine wheel and the crushing mace there too, and the little sacrificial goat on the chest there too. Really nice touch having the, to quote Warhammer Minis, the tactical rock there as well to give it like a sense of motion there too. Here is the other Stigmatic Nun. Yep, so it's just the same writing there. And that is it for the Trench Pilgrims. I think they're number 3 for me. New Antioch takes it for number 2 behind the Court. But yeah, Trench Pilgrims are also awesome too. Having a big anchorage shrine and then just a gang of faithful little mini-me's and maybe, yeah, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things that are really cool there. Okay, but the future of Trench Crusade. So that was update 9 to update 15. Greetings, Crusaders. We couldn't start this update without once again thanking all of you for your support. When I say support, I don't just mean pledges. The amount of encouragement, understanding, and just general excitement for what we're trying to do is the biggest motivator for us. Thank you. As mentioned last week, the team had a long conversation about the success of the Kickstarter, what it means to us, and where we wanted to go from here. We've decided to commit our feelings in text so that everyone can read it at their leisure, auto-translate into their language, etc. What was Trench Crusade meant to be? This was built from the ground up by Mike, James, and Thomas, whilst working their day jobs. I, for Jamie, joined over the summer and am still the only one who's been full-time on it. We managed to pull together a range of over 60 minis, full rules, unit profiles, and a campaign system for this game. Already time-consuming and expensive effort. Not to mention everything we put into caring for and growing the community, without whom this game wouldn't be what it is today. Yeah, the Discord and Facebook group, very active, very constructive and positive. It's good stuff. We expected around 4K backers and maybe 400 to 500K in pledges. Yes, obviously we had hopes for much more than that, but to us these were fanciful numbers and not ones we could base a realistic long-term plan on. After all the fees, production, and paying back the money we've invested in the development of the campaign, the original sum we expected was going to leave us with a healthy war chest to continue development of rules and miniatures, as we had been doing, growing the game over a long time with the community. Obviously, you obliterated that within mere hours of the project being launched. Despite having a high funding goal compared to a lot of projects, it took us under 8 minutes to fund and did not stop there. In my years on Kickstarter, I've only seen a few campaigns pull off this kind of growth, and they were never as niche as a skirmish war game. Huge testament to the community of this game, and I think I said it in one of the first videos, a little coverage I did. Like, generally speaking, one of the most important things with crowdfunding campaigns is marketing it. Because Kickstarter has so many projects on it, and their main page doesn't have the best visibility to show just general projects that are live on the platform, and there's so many at once. And without having success right away, you don't really get picked up from their algorithm as far as I can tell. And so, like, having either a fervent community such as Trench Crusade or a big marketing budget is basically necessary. And like seeing stuff like this is fantastic. I think I mentioned Mothership is another one where it had like the grassroots kind of go, and it's so lovely to see. And yeah, also the big funding goal too. So a lot of projects will have less than they actually need, which is if anyone's wants to know more on that, Alex Radcliffe of Board Game Co has a great video with some thoughts and feelings on it, because it is a double-edged sword for sure. Hence our efforts to readjust not only campaign-related stretch goals, but also our plans and expectations for the game in the long run. Kickstarted to death. First of all, I'm sure we can all agree that this would make an amazing album name if Motley Crue ever makes a comeback. More seriously though, this is something that can happen with very successful campaigns. It's important to remember that the massive cash injections of campaigns like this do not automatically ensure long-term sustainability. A knee-jerk reaction of quickly scaling up your output and team size to try and match such unreasonable goals on a regular basis can have catastrophic results. Not to mention, you can very quickly lose sight of your original goal. Our original goal was to deliver 60 plus minis quickly and efficiently so that all of you could be playing our game in a matter of months, not years, which is awesome. It's something I've seen a fair bit in the industry, recently at least, is like people really wanting to do much more expedient turnaround times, and like a bunch of first-time creators I've seen, or first or sophomore-time creators, have been like really amazing and have done fulfillment within like 6 to 8 months after their campaigns, which is really impressive because there's a huge amount of stuff that goes into it. Okay. Delivering on this original promise is still going to be our main focus, and we won't do anything to jeopardize this. It was already a big decision to take an entire future campaign and fold it into this one. To put it into the perspective, that represents around 6 months to work in terms of writing and playtesting alone, not to mention all the assets tied to it, such as art and miniatures. That's why delivery for the Carcass Front is slated for December 25th at the earliest. December 2025 at the earliest. One thing I'm really glad that they did is that they didn't do that as a physical goal, because that would have exponentially pushed things back. And so having it as a digital goal that they can fulfill separately from everything else is a really good call. Because then if there are delays on this, which, to be realistic, delays happen in pretty much every single crowdfunding campaign ever, and for a variety of very valid reasons, it can at least be separate, which is good. And then obviously no shipping costs, no changes in production costs and everything too. So digital is the way to go for sure. And also, I think they're planning on doing a physical version in crowdfunding or retail in the future. This isn't to say we won't be growing our organization in light of this campaign, but it's going to come in measured and healthy manner. We prefer to manage expectations now, give ourselves some breathing room, and, if possible, deliver earlier than expected. Which leads into the question of more stretch goals. To be very clear about it, there won't be any more of this campaign. No, that doesn't mean there won't be a lot of new things coming your way in the future because of this campaign. One thing I want to jump in and add there too, I fully support that decision. One thing, I think they're already doing it. So the rulebook is basically an art book, and it seems like it's going to be a super gourmet, beautiful hardcover book that they're probably not going to print in the future, unless maybe future campaigns it might be available for another run or something. But coming from publishing, I would love to see the book just get risked out to the nines with all kinds of fancy, beautiful features on it. It's like fancy end sheets, embossing and debossing, like gilding stuff. Get a bookmark in there too. Things like that would be really cool to see, and would obviously increase production costs of the book. But considering how many probably going to be printed and the funds that they've raised, I think that would be pretty sweet to see. And again, they might already be doing that. Just it's all wrapped into not being stretch goals, especially with them being in the wargaming industry, and that's something that's happened quite a bit in like thinking of game workshop books over the last couple of years. Like, almost every book that comes out will have a special edition. But yeah, that's something I'd love to see, and I think the book's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay. In the next section, you can read about the different things we are going to be working on. We asked ourselves if we should just include these as very high funding stretch goals, but we feel that at best, these would have seemed disingenuous and added yet more content that we would need to deliver before we call this campaign done. I know some of you may be disappointed by this, but you have my word that it will lead to a better game in the long run. Yeah, so frankly, like I think this is all so well worded. It's just very honest, very genuine, very professional, which is wonderful to see. Okay. What is Stretch Crusade going to be? Everything we wanted and more. Like I said, folks, this kind of support changes lives. We're still working out the business plan, but I can tell you now that multiple members of the team will be going full-time on Stretch Crusade. There are a few words that can aptly describe what this means to us, so we'll keep it to a thank you for now and let our true appreciation show through in the love and attention we tend to put into the game. The rest of this year is going to be spent finishing the Kickstarter and Pledge Manager, getting digital files out on time, as well as troubleshooting any issues. More announcements from Atlas on that subject later. And getting the ball rolling on physical production. On that note, a lot has been happening behind the scenes between us and the printer. They know how important the situation is and what successfully completing it could mean for their future as well as ours. So rest assured that we're on it. There's been a fair amount of comments kind of expressing concern about the printing partner for the minis and having mixed reviews or poor communication. I think mixed reviews rather than poor communication. So it's just nice that they called that out. The lion's share of next year will be committed to the book and the carcass front in terms of rules and art. They will be our main priority. As far as minis go, there will also be a lot going on behind the scenes. It's not like we don't have over a dozen sub-factions and multiple mercenaries that still need minis. They also shared something in a more recent update that we'll cover soon as some potential, I think, other factions and sub-factions too, but I think factions. Yeah, okay, here we go. So then more enough ideas to keep going for quite some time. New factions and minis, rules and scenarios for solo play, which is cool. That's something that kind of tickles me a little bit since I don't have anyone to play games like this with, as well as for including non-player combatants in your game. Seasonal rules that will introduce new modification profiles, scenarios, and more to keep your games fresh that evolve in the ongoing narrative of this unending war. Match play rules that will rebalance parts of the game for tournament play. And future development isn't limited to game content. An app to easily keep track of your warband scenarios and rules. The Trench Crier, OG Mordheim players, you'll know what this is. I'm actually not familiar. I never played. I never got to. I got to read like White Dwarfs that had it in it and such, but I never read what that is. So that's cool. Not to mention that if we let Thomas loose, he will obliterate the lot of you in a glorious shower of words. Love it. I believe it. Following like their Instagram or Facebook page, they've got huge lore dumps accompanying photos of the units and such, which is just great to see. And great to read when you have the time. Cool. Also, so there is a unofficial like army builder right now. If you Google Trench Crusade army builder, it's the first thing that comes up, which looks pretty great. And cool to know that there's an official one coming in the future too. I'm assuming that'll have an army builder in it too. And then not even going to start on all the cool third-party stuff. To be perfectly clear, everything above is still nothing more than a rough concept at this time and listed in no particular order. All I can confirm now is that none of this is going to start until we've delivered everything listed in this campaign, and you won't hear much about it until after then either. As you may have guessed by now, we take our obligations here very seriously. And that, Crusaders, is all I can say for now. As always, I've tried to be honest and open with you all as I can without touching on every subject. And making this update longer than it already is. Once again, thank you for support. Keep your trigger fingers itchy, your shovel sharpened, and your sacred text of choice to hand. The war ain't ending anytime soon. Yeah, I think that is, obviously it's a very long update, but I think it's just phenomenally worded and really well thought out too. So good stuff all around. We'll see y'all for the next faction focus soon. Bye!